Welcome back to my channel. What if I told you that massive social problems like a sudden spike in disease or crime can be triggered by small invisible changes? In this video, we will explore a shocking case, the 1990s syphilis epidemic in Baltimore, America, where cases in newborns rose by over 500% in just 1 year. We will break down how it happened, why it happened, and what it reveals about how epidemics spread using insights from Malcolm Gladwell's best-selling book, The Tipping Point. This is the fifth video of the series based on the book The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. In the first part of this video, I'm going to discuss with you the epidemic that exploded overnight. In the mid-1990s, Baltimore was hit hard by a sudden epidemic of syphilis. From 1995 to 1996, the number of children born with the disease increased by 500%. On a graph, it looked like a straight line shooting up at a 90-degree angle. For years, the disease had been under control, then suddenly it tipped. What happened? Experts came up with three completely different explanations. Each one shows us a different rule of how epidemics actually work in real life. The rule number one, the power of context. The first explanation came from the CDC. They blamed the rise of crack cocaine. Crack had been in Baltimore for years, but in the mid 1990s, usage intensified. More people flooded into poor neighborhoods to buy drugs. Those people carried infections back into their own communities. The presence of crack did not just increase drug problems, it reshaped the social environment. It altered how people connected, who they interacted with, and how fast disease could spread. This is a classic example of what Gladwell calls the power of context. Sometimes all it takes uh, Sometimes all it takes is a small change in environment to tip an entire system into crisis. The rule number two, the stickiness factor. The second explanation came from Dr. John Zenilman, a Johns Hopkins expert. He blamed the breakdown of the city's STD clinics. In the early 90s, the clinics had over 36,000 patient visits a year. Then, due to budget cuts, the staff was slashed. Clinic, uh, clinic, Clinicians dropped from 17 to 10. The number of clinics dropped from 17 to 10. Patient visits fell to just 21,000. Outreach workers were let go, clinics ran out of medication. Suddenly, people who used to get treated quickly for syphilis were walking around infectious for weeks. This gave the disease time to linger and spread. Gladwell calls this the stickiness factor. It's not just that something spreads, it's it's how long it stays and how effectively it grabs hold. In this case, syphilis had gone from a short lived infection to a persistent chronic problem, more sticky than before. Then the rule number three, the law of the few. The third theory came from John Potteret, a top epidemiologist. He did not blame the drug or the clinics. He blamed the people who were moving. Baltimore began demolishing old housing projects in East and West Baltimore. These neighborhoods had contained the syphilis problem for years. But when people were forced to move out, they carried the disease with them. The hollowing out of these neighborhoods caused a diaspora. As people settled in new areas, they introduced the disease into communities that had never seen it before. This shows what Gladwell calls the law of the few. Certain people have a disproportionate impact on spreading things, whether it's fashion, ideas, or disease. In this case, a specific kind of person, poor, sexually active, often drug using, carried syphilis from neighborhood to neighborhood, seeding a new epidemic. What is fascinating is that none of these changes were huge on their own. Crack did not suddenly appear, it just got slightly worse. Clinics were not shut down completely, they were slightly reduced. Neighborhoods were not entirely evacuated, just partially reshuffled. Yet these small changes shattered the delicate equilibrium. The disease went from being manageable to exploding across the city. That's the core idea of the tipping point. Big changes can come from small triggers if they hit the right people at the right time in the right environment. Three rules of epidemics. Let's sum up the three rules of epidemics as Malcolm Gladwell defines them. The first rule is the law of the few. Small number of people can make a huge difference. These are the connectors, mavens, and salesmen who spread ideas, habits, or diseases quickly. The rule number two is the stickiness factor. It's not enough for something to spread. It must be memorable, impactful, and persistent. In epidemics, this can mean how long someone remains contagious. In marketing, it might mean how catchy your message is. And the third rule is the power of context. Human behavior is highly sensitive to environmental cues. Even small shifts in setting can lead to a huge behavioral changes. So, what is the final takeaway from this video is that the story of the Baltimore syphilis outbreak is not just about public health. It's a model for understanding how change happens in society, in marketing, in communities, and even in our own lives. To create or stop an epidemic of ideas, behavior, or disease, we must target the people, the few, create sticky messages, stickiness, shape the right environment, the context. So, whether you are a teacher, a marketer, a business owner, or a policymaker, understanding these three rules can help you spark positive change and maybe even stop a negative one in its tracks. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the science of influence and behavior. Until next time, stay curious and keep tipping the world in the right direction.